Hello everybody, this is Lara from Pure Elliott Wave with your weekly update for Bitcoin. I won't be updating Solana today. I have some issues with the data source. It's not updating my data, so I don't have a current data feed for Solana. I'll get that fixed next week. I'm on the road this week. I'm making my way up from halfway down Morocco. We've got all the way through Morocco, crossed back over to Europe, through Spain, back to Portugal, back through Spain, and we're heading up to Andorra. So I've had a really busy week. That's why I haven't given you an update for this till the end of Friday. So it is later than I would normally do it. I'll be settled in Andorra for 3 months, so I'll be back to giving you one or more likely two of these videos a week starting next week. So that's coming up. We finally have an upward breakout on an upward session for the 6th of November, which has closed to a new all-time high on that date, and it has support from volume, a classic upward breakout. We can have confidence it's an upward breakout. I am slightly concerned though that the 7th of November did not have follow through. We've got a much smaller range, a spinning top candlestick for the 7th that indicates a balance of bulls and bears, indecision with the bulls slightly winning as they have pushed price higher with a higher high and a higher low and a green candlestick. But it's got much smaller range and much weaker volume than the previous session. I would really have liked to have seen a good solid follow through in the next session or so. Slightly concerned that we're not seeing that for the larger bullish count, but it is an upward breakout. I will expect now support about 73,800, and it would be reasonably typical now to see price curve back and test support at least once, possibly twice, before price now moves up and away. So we obviously did have the end of the bear market back on the 5th of August. As I originally expected, although I did then waver and think that we were going to have those lows tested and exceeded and that the bear market was going to continue. But for quite a while now, while I've been updating my membership but not the YouTube channel very much, I have discarded any bearish alternates, and I was expecting this upward breakout. You can see that in my promotional video that Jordan did for me this week. So look for support now at 73,800. Let's have a look at technicals and see how strong is this upward movement now. Absolutely huge volume for the 6th of November. That is really bullish. However, the 7th of November, we don't have follow through, and so far for the 8th of November, it's only 11 a.m, but also today we're also seeing really weak volume. So I am a little bit concerned for how far is this going to go. Are we going to see a small upward breakout and then move into a new bear market that could last 9 months to a year, or are we going to see an absolutely huge bullish run for 2025? Both scenarios are possible, both of them, but I can't tell you which of those two scenarios yet is most likely to play out. Obviously for my own investments, which I did not sell my Bitcoin in the last bear market, I held on throughout that. I don't know where some people got that idea from. I never said that, obviously. I'm still holding on, and I'm expecting I'm not going to exit until a huge third wave is complete. I can't share my Elliott Wave count, but I'm holding on for a big third wave. On balance volume is not making highs with price. There could be developing some bearish divergence here. I will wait for pivots in price and on balance volume to develop before I try and identify any potential divergence. But if we see a pivot develop here, if price does curve and backtest support, we'll see a pivot develop on price. If we see a corresponding pivot on balance volume, we'll have some longer term bearish divergence that would not bode well for how far is this bullish run going to continue for. I'm going to be looking to see if we do see pivots, and then if we see pivots, I want to identify some divergence. If it doesn't exist, I'll be very bullish. If we do see divergence develop, I will be bearish for midterm. ADX gives us a very strong signal. It tells us there's a new upward trend in a relatively early stage. RSI is overbought. We're not going to see bearish divergence develop until we get back to here, the end of the last bullish run. Now I'd be wanting to look at the weekly time frame. This is too far back to say that we're going to be developing divergence here. For that far back, you need to look at a higher time frame. If we see an upward session today and then we see a pivot develop here, we could have some very short-term bearish divergence. That could be resolved quite quickly though by just a little bit of a pullback, so that wouldn't be a concern. Money flow, however, could develop divergence. We've got this high back on the 27th of September, if we see a pivot develop quite quickly here, we could see some bearish divergence develop from the 27th of September. I'm not going to call it yet because we need to wait for that pivot to develop before you try and identify divergence. That's a technique I've developed myself over the years to try and eliminate those false signals you can get from divergence, where you see divergence, you could call it here, and then it just disappears and price continues on up. Range is starting to steadily increase. The 6th of November was huge, but that wasn't the only start of increase in range. We had an increase in range back toward the end of October, so that's really good to see. So volume and range moving up with price is very bullish, for the short term at least. Very quickly at the weekly time frame, we can see the current all-time highs. Look for support now, 73,800. This current week is incomplete. It's going to have push from volume at the weekly time frame. It looks like we may have a closed new all-time highs at daily and weekly time frames, both with support from volume. We're definitely going to have support from volume at both, and that would be pretty bullish. ADX is declining. The DX lines have been whipsawing. There's no clear trend yet at the weekly time frame. RSI is still neutral. Now this is where we could see bearish divergence develop. If we see a pivot develop at the weekly time frame, so for that to happen, we would need a strong down week or 2 downward weeks. And then if we see a pivot develop on price and a corresponding pivot on RSI, at this stage, if that happens very soon, we're then going to have some bearish divergence identifiable between RSI and price. If that happens, that's going to be bearish for 2025, possibly. On balance volume at the weekly time frame, however, is making new highs along with price, so that's pretty bullish and really good to see. We're also going to be seeing potential bearish divergence develop between money flow, with the previous all-time highs back in March 2024 and the current all-time highs. If we see a pivot develop on price and money flow, there would be some mid-term bearish or longer-term bearish divergence. If that happens, I'm going to be concerned for exactly how far this bullish run is going to continue for. I've shown you this one before. I can't remember the guy's name, but someone I follow on Twitter gave me this idea. You can draw this channel on RSI on the monthly time frame, and we'll be looking for potentially the next bullish run to end when RSI reaches up to this upper edge of this channel. It works for money flow too. There's not as much room for money flow. Now this isn't definitive in that we could see deeper overbought conditions for both of them. They could move above this channel, but it's worked before here and here and here at the ends of these previous bullish runs, so I'll be looking for it to potentially work again for the next bullish run. That's it for me real quick for you today. A quick update for Bitcoin, back with one or probably 2 videos a week starting next week as I'm settled again for a little while. And thank you very much for your patience while I've had a bit of a break.